So in the IELTS band scoring system, candidates can be described as being limited users to experts based on the competencies they can demonstrate. Here some are described. Which kind of candidate are you? An intermittent user is someone defined as someone who is unable to communicate except for the most basic information using isolated words or short phrases in familiar situations. A modest user is someone who has a partial command of the language, coping with overall meaning, though he or she is likely to make many mistakes. A competent user is someone defined as having generally effective command of the language, despite some inaccuracies and misunderstandings, but can use and understand fairly complex language, particularly in familiar situations. Someone who is considered an expert user is one who can demonstrate fully operational command of the language, appropriate, accurate, fluent, with complete understanding. Okay,
Okay.
now it's your turn.
Okay. In the IELTS band score systems, candidates can be described as being limited users to experts based on the competences they can demonstrate. Here some are described. Which kind of candidate are you? An intermittent user is someone defined as someone who is unable to communicate experts for the most basic information using isolate word or short phrases in familiar situations. And a model user is someone who has a patient command of the language, coping with overall meaning. Though he or she is likely to make many mistakes, a competent user is someone defined as having generally effective command of the language. They depend someone or some inaccuracies and misunderstanding, but can use and understand fully complete language, particularly in familiar situations. Someone who is considered um, com- expert user is one who can demonstrate for operational command of the language. Per, perpu, uh, appropriate, oh no,
Appropriate.
appropriate, accurate, accurate, fluent with complete understanding.
So this would be one of the reasons why you don't get the score that you hope for.
Yeah.
Syllable. Are you familiar with a syllable?
Familiar, but I don't know it all.
A syllable. Um, Chinese language really has like one character, one sound,
Oh,
except for those characters that have more than one sound. But uh, one character has one syllable, and you can combine two characters to have two syllables. You have root words, and then the prefixes and suffixes added, the affixes, right? So the root word and the affixes,
oh yeah.
prefixes and suffixes. So I noticed that um, you tend to struggle with the pronunciation. You tend to struggle with the pronunciation of those last syllables or those first syllables, right?
Yeah.
Like this word here. Read this word for me for a second. Can you read this word for me, please?
Comprehensions.
Okay, what's this part here?
Shoes.
What's the meaning of this word? What does
Um,
this word mean? What's competence? So here we have like a base form, Then we
No.
have,
Oh,
no?
maybe base form is first.
Okay. This would have to be the base form, and it is a noun.
Oh,
Competency, also a noun. Competencies is a plural noun. And competent is an adjective. And
yeah.
competently is an adverb. So when you see this thing here, you should recognize that this is a derivative form of competence. It's the plural noun. It's the plural. Well, competence is the noun that we use to describe somebody who can do the
Yeah.
task. Somebody who can do the task, right?
Yeah.
Like somebody who is competent in the kitchen is one who can use all of the equipment in the kitchen without hurting themselves and not making something that tastes disgusting, right?
Yeah.
A good competent cook is somebody who can prepare a simple meal without burning it and cutting themselves, right? Or burning something. A competency, on the other hand, well, that's a little bit more abstract, and we
Maybe
can, yeah. So competency is one of those measurements, like a 6-level user compared to a 9-level user, is somebody who can communicate easily, naturally, at a professional level, right? Having knowledge of the meanings of words in this category, uh, ability to write with correct grammar and punctuation, not making the common errors. Like a 6-level user is somebody who makes frequent errors of 1, 2, and 3. A competent and above language user is somebody who doesn't make those common errors, makes errors uncommonly, and understands that they're making the errors, right? A 6-level user doesn't know what kind of errors they're making. A 7 and 8-level user understands fully what errors they need to avoid, right? So that's what a competency is. And then the plural competencies. It's not too important, but you are making the mistake of not understanding this suffix here, okay? Competencies.
maybe the two words have different meaning. Uh, yeah.
Well, the general thought is uh,
胜任.
the skill to do the thing correctly.
Yeah.
So somebody who, like, competence is having is the state of being. Competence is like the state of being, of having knowledge and skill. Somebody who's competent, it describes the person, a competent person. Competency is the skill itself.
Oh.
Oh, I'm going to give you something to read after this lesson as well that talks a little bit more about how words are constructed based off of the root words, building up off the root words. So I think you might find that interesting, and it will help you with your pronunciation. So the next underlined word is this one here. Can you read that for me, please?
Described.
Right. So that's actually a mistake.
Uh,
There are some rules or patterns in pronunciation governing how the ed suffix is pronounced, right? When I say pronounced, I don't say pronounced said. I say pronounced. Just like describe, it's described. So an examiner would hear that and say, I'm going to take away 0.2 from your score for saying that, right? This one here?
isolate.
Yeah. Now this one, compare describe versus isolated. Why would we pronounce described without the syllable, but we would say isolated with the syllable? Described, isolated. Describe it, isolated. Because it ends in a T. It's that simple. So verbs ending in T Get the syllable added. Isolated. It's C and D, I think. What's a verb ending in D? Pronunciation. I'm going to give you this to read. Chapter 3, word stress. Silent E. Okay, so it's here. Verbs. Regular verbs are those that, when put into the past simple, take ed as its suffix or participle, right? And irregular verbs are those that change the spelling, like walk and walked, talk and talked are regular verbs, and have and had or has, and be and is and are and was and were, those are examples of irregular verbs, right?
Yeah.
Let's read these together. Read this one here. Beg.
Bag. Big.
Well, this is beg.
Bag.
And this is?
Begged.
Yeah, begged. And this is?
And.
And this is?
And.
Ended.
And dead.
This one is?
Hope.
And this one is?
Hope.
Okay. This one is?
Love.
And this one is?
Loved.
Is? Good. This one.
Want.
And this one is?
Want.
Wanted.
Wanted.
This one is?
Wash.
And this one is?
Washed.
Right. So the ones that ended in D, like end, became ended.
Then.
And the ones that ended in T, like want, became wanted. So the rule is verbs ending in D and T, we pronounce the ed participle as a second syllable or as another syllable. Want, wanted. Isolate, isolated. But the other ones, we just say d or t, right? We don't pronounce that other syllable. Like a theme that will come up in this course, throughout the speaking course, and throughout the reading course, and throughout the writing course. Recognizing question types and what type of like reading or writing or speaking or communicating skill the examiner is testing you on, or the question is testing you on, right?